Well, that was Iran's president. We're now joined by Dr. Dore Gold, a former United Nations ambassador for Israel who advised Benjamin Netanyahu on foreign policy and joins us from Jerusalem. Thank you for talking to us. Well, we've heard from your Prime Minister that he thinks this is an historic mistake. Is that the words that you would use, and why?
Well, I wouldn't call it a diplomatic breakthrough. I might call it something like a diplomatic disaster, because the real goals that the West has set for itself to stop the Iranian drive for nuclear weapons has not been achieved. You have managed to halt one of the aspects of uranium enrichment to 20%, leaving the uraniums to enrich at the lower level of 3.5%. However, the technical breakthroughs in Iran's nuclear program allow them to make that fast leap from the low-enriched uranium directly to weapons grade, and that hasn't been addressed.
So you do not believe at all Iran when it says quite clearly that it doesn't want nuclear weapons? That's just, in your view, a falsehood.
Do you know what I suggest you do? And all of those who are watching the BBC today, go to the website of the International Atomic Energy Agency and read the last report on the Iranian program. There are serious concerns in the West that are expressed in the report of the International Atomic Energy Agency that Iran is developing warheads for its missiles. Has that been addressed in these negotiations with the P5+1? I'm afraid those suspicions still are standing. And that means when Iran continues to enrich uranium, it is aiming for a goal of developing a full-blown nuclear weapons program down the road.
So what is Israel's demand now? It looks very difficult, doesn't it, from your point of view, to think of a military strike without the United States in support, and they're clearly not going to be, certainly not in the short term. But so what do you want to do? Do you want to see Tehran's nuclear facilities, just eliminated, destroyed one by one?
Well, the question is, what can you afford and what can we, as a Western civilization, afford? You know, Iran getting nuclear weapons isn't like Belgium getting nuclear weapons. I mean, frankly, if that happened in Belgium, who cares? But when Iran has forces deployed all over the Middle East, you know what? In Syria today, there are Iranian troops killing Sunni Arabs. Does anyone talk about that? And now, with a nuclear potential growing, Iran will be empowered to intervene in Yemen, in Bahrain, in Iraq, in Syria, and all around the Middle East. So maybe you'll have a respite in Europe and you can feel comforted by these ceremonies you're seeing in Geneva. But ultimately, it will blow back on Europe as well.
What do you think Israel's steps will be from here on?
Well, you know, the Prime Minister has said Israel's not committed to this agreement. And Israel will have to do what's necessary to defend its national security interests. And by the way, we are not alone and we are not isolated, because Israeli leaders clearly see the statements coming out of Saudi Arabia, out of the other GCC countries, out of those states that view Iran's growing military power in the region as a direct threat to their security. And hopefully, all of us together will be able to help halt, or at least limit, Iran's drive to regional hegemony, which has only been assisted by this agreement in Geneva today.
Can I ask you one last question, Dore Gold? Do you have any optimism at all from what happened? At least we have Iran talking there. We have words that you don't agree with, but rather softer than they were before. This is a country very anxious to get sanctions lifted, which have crippled its economy. No optimism at all? Not a glimmer?
You had all the leverage in the world to achieve a complete halt to the Iranian nuclear program. But you basically gave away that leverage to reach an imperfect agreement that leaves the Middle East much more dangerous. Now, I know there are people who say, well, the West balanced off the Soviet Union during the Cold War. That's when you had a bipolar situation, two powers. As a result of this agreement, many more states are going to seek nuclear weapons in the Middle East. And a multipolar nuclear Middle East is not stable. And therefore, it is our responsibility to call attention to the flaws in this agreement to the world. And even if we're a little unpopular in doing it, it's our obligation.
Dore Gold, very grateful to you. Thank you very much.